In the last video, we saw how to customize the Anima interface, and we moved the backgrounds panel from the right side to the left side. Now, in this video, we're going to learn how to move and navigate inside the 3D viewport, which is this center space we have here, okay? As I told you in a previous video, this is our window in the 3D world we will be working in, okay? So, let's start by learning how to use these tools. These are the tools, actually, that will let us move and navigate inside the viewport, okay? We cannot just work with something fixed, static. We need to move around objects, okay? Then, the first tool we are covering is the pan tool, okay? As you can see, as soon as I left-click on this button, okay, the mouse cursor changes into a little hand. Then I can left-click and drag, and what I'm doing is just moving the virtual camera, okay? That's it. Very, very simple. Then the next tool is the orbit tool. Then we left-click on it, we activate this tool, and then, as you can see, the mouse cursor changes. And now, left-click and drag, and what we do is just to change the direction of the virtual camera, okay? This is something like as if we would turning around our head, okay? Same thing. Then the third one is the zoom tool, okay? Same thing, we activate it by left-clicking on the mouse button, on the button, okay? And then we left-click and drag up and down, and we zoom in and zoom out, okay? What we are doing this is just to coming closer or farther from the objects, in this case, from the grid, with our virtual camera. Then we have a fourth element, which is this, called zoom extends. The problem with this tool is that it needs a current selection. But before that, let's talk about another thing, which is, in this case, I'm having still activated the zoom tool, okay? So I need to left-click again to deselect it and then be able to do something else. So clicking once to activate and clicking twice to deactivate, it's not very practical. It can be done, but what I prefer is to use keyboard shortcuts instead of having to activate and deactivate them, okay? So let's start from the pan tool, which works in this way, okay? We have to use the Alt key pressed and the right mouse button, and we right click and drag, okay? As you can see, same thing. As I release them, I'm able to do anything else. For the orbit tool, we have to use always the Alt key in combination with the left mouse button. So Alt, left, click and drag, and we change our direction. Okay. And for the zoom tool, we have two choices. The first one is probably something that you already discovered, which is using your mouse wheel, okay? Very simple, very common. But if you don't have a mouse wheel, then you will have to use the Alt key together with both left and right mouse button. Click and drag, up and down, okay? Very simple. Now, to demonstrate how to use this, especially this one, we're going to left click on this. If I click this, as you can see, the camera point of view changed a bit. But since it needs something selected, we need to place something here. So I want to show you how simple is this. We will go to the background panel, okay? And we will choose this background here, the sandbox. How I know the name is sandbox? Because in the preview I'm viewing, at the bottom right, it's written sandbox. Okay? So I left click and drag inside the scene, and that's it. Very, very simple. Okay? Now, one thing I want to say, is that this tool here, it's almost always activated, and this is the select and transform tool. This tool let us select things, elements in the scene. But if we try to left click or left click and drag for the rectangular selection, you see that background doesn't select. Okay, so this is because a background model is a special element in the scene. We actually don't touch them. We can, but we cannot do nothing more than move them, scale them, rotate them, but we cannot model anything, we cannot edit anything of their geometry. This is something that we do in an external program such as 3ds Max, Cinema 4D, or Maya. Okay? But at the moment, I want you to be able to select this element. And there is a way, but not in the scene, in the viewport. Okay? We have to do it in the project panel. As you can see now, in this list, before empty, now we have the background model. We'll talk about this panel later on. Okay? We can left click on the background model and we select it. As you can see, now is highlighted. The property panels has been populated with the options we'll talk about later videos of the background, and in the scene, in the viewport, a manipulator has appeared. Now this manipulator let us rotate, move along one axis or two axes at a time. Okay? So in this case we can actually manipulate the position and the rotation of this element. Okay? Now, let's try again our navigation tools. So Alt, right click and drag, and we move our camera. We're not moving the object, we are moving the camera. Okay? Then Alt, left click and drag, and what has happened? Well, this is the orbit tool, but it doesn't work exactly as it did before. Why? Because while we are having a selection active, then the orbit tool will orbit around the selection. This is very, very, very useful. Okay? I will demonstrate this to you. Just left click outside the object. This way we deselect something. Okay? And let's try again the orbit tool. Alt, left click and drag. As you can see, the rotation of the camera is different. Okay? Very important. Okay, so let's select again in the project panel the background model. Okay, left click on it. Perfect. And again, orbit tool. Alt, left click and drag. Perfect. So what I'm going to do now is move my camera this way. Alt, right click and drag. I'm moving almost all outside the viewport. Okay, the point of view of my camera. Now, with this object selected, what I can do is just to use the zoom extends tool by clicking on it, left click, and boom, the object again in front of the camera. Now, if we left click outside here and we deselect the object and we do the same, Alt, right click and drag to move it, and we click again the zoom extends, we get the same result. Why is that? Well, this zoom extends works every time there is something in the scene. So if nothing is selected, it will center everything. While when something is selected, will center that elements or those selected elements. Okay? Important to know that. Okay? Perfect. Now, I will Alt, right click and drag, move a bit these elements, this background on the right side. I'm not moving actually the element, I'm moving the camera, okay? Because I want to show these icons, okay? As I told you, this is the select and transform tool, okay? And these are the other tools and represent the simulation elements we will be working on in this course, okay? We will be covering them in later videos. And the last, I will be clicking here the zoom extents. Well, no, I will be using the keyboard shortcut, which is Alt-E, as you can see. Okay? The last icon we have here is this one, on the top left of the viewport, and is the display preferences, which is the topic of the next video. Okay? So in this video, we learned how to navigate and move and in part select elements in the scene. In the next video, we will be talking about the display preferences. So, see you soon.